I think it's just letting me do it. Yep. Wow, that's the first time it didn't prompt me for a security code. Okay.
Hey, just to jump ahead for a second, Ryan, but the new thermostats does that give our folks a little bit more control, such as on this? No, that's what I was afraid you were going to say. No.
No, there's not new ones, David. These are like the existing ones that we've had since the system was updated a couple years ago.
So there's still no local control zone by zone by zone.
Correct.
Yeah.
Have they had an actual HVAC person come out, or is it just facilities?
They have. Yeah. So I'll restate all this when we get to the agenda item, but just to answer your initial questions, we have no local control.
Yeah.
And we have had an
That's
HVAC
bad.
person come out. I will say it's also, if her office is at 68.5 or what was it? 66.5. It wasn't as low as 62, but it's still pretty significantly colder. So I mean, we've given the feedback that it's still very uncomfortable for her to work in that environment, but you know.
But the staff know enough to come in with a winter sweater or two.
Oh yeah, and
the
I mean,
patrons that come in, particularly little kiddos, are still, I think, unprepared, right?
Yeah, and I provided extra blankets.
Yeah.
To people too, so that there's like one that's down there now. I mean, I think all of that is silly that we have to get to that point.
Yeah, I know.
Kind of my feedback, but
Yeah, I used to work at Boston University in a basement, and it was like 60 degrees in the middle of the summer. So you'd come in with a parka for work and then leave, in a sundress. But so I feel Kim's pain for sure.
But always what happens is that, like, if we modify this, and then turn it off, we might not be able to get it back on. That's what happened before when we were having issues with it. Is I know the staff don't want to hear this, but if the system wasn't functioning completely, it actually is much worse in the summer down there when it's hot. So
Yeah.
the children's room, no, but like if it's the winter and there's no heat down there, that is really when there's a big problem. But we were told multiple times when the system was switched over to this new like individual thermostats in each of the areas, at least we can tell what the temperature is now.
Yeah.
Is that better or worse?
At
it's
least
cold in
we
here.
know,
It's 60 degrees in here. I don't know.
At least when the staff are saying it's too cold in the area, I can go down there and look and see
you can qualify
what degree it is versus us trying to get. Because here's the thing about anybody in any building who's working in any environment is that you're going to have some people who are too cold and some people who are too hot. And there is this episode of The Office I remember where everybody was individually changing the thermostat and they were driving everybody crazy. Like, honestly, if we had local control of it, I'm worried something like that would happen too, where it's like, well, do I have to like set guidelines on what the temperature is supposed to be? But also the target is like 70 degrees. That's what I've told facilities is let's just have things at 70 and go from there. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's just the building infrastructure. I don't know why we can't make that happen. But apparently we can't.
My child who thinks she's an expert thinks it's ridiculous. They should be able to fix it, but.
Well, she's welcome to talk to John.
Good luck, yeah.
Who probably wishes he could burn the whole building down at this point. He's been called to fix that air conditioning weekly.
Way too many times.
Was hired. I know. It's that will be nice to have in the rear view mirror.
Yes.
Anyway, how is everyone?
We're all good.
Okay. Do we have everybody we're getting? Let me see.
Everybody's
we also have
Jane
gonna
is here and Janet's here. Hi, hey, okay.
Yeah, and
Hi, guys.
Mr. Probst is in the audience, just to let you all know too.
Oh, okay,
So
because
I'll be bringing him over in a little bit, but we
Oh.
might want to jump that as an agenda item, Marguerite, if that's
Yep,
okay.
I can do that. I can do that first. All right, so I'll call the meeting to order. It is July 15th, yikes. It is 11 a.m. This is the Southborough Library Board of Trustees. And the first order of business is approval of the minutes from June 3rd and June 24th. Does anyone have any edits? Do I have a motion to accept both those sets of minutes as
Jane's trying to talk, but she's muted.
Hi, can you hear me
There you go.
now?
Now I
Yes.
can, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why the bit about the Southborough Gardener's Garden is called the Circle Garden. We've always just called it the Library Garden. So,
Okay, we can amend that, Jane.
okay, and I mean, we call them the urns, but whatever, the other two things, but but both copies said Circle Garden, and I'm pretty sure I didn't say that, but it's just, and we have
Somebody referred to it as a circle that day, but I don't remember.
I think I did. I think it was
Okay.
my fault.
okay,
Is that
so
it's like
we
a
could just take that out and we call it the Library Garden.
okay.
Not very interesting, but that's what we do. Okay,
I think I made the distinction in the meeting because we were talking about so many different garden spaces that I didn't want it to be confusing. But Jane's point is correct, is that's usually when we usually say the library garden, we're referring specifically to that area. So I can make that changes and I can make sure they say the urns as well. So that's on the June 3rd, correct, Jane?
I think of the 24th, but
It says it as well.
I think
Okay,
so.
I can update both.
Okay, not a big
Thank you.
deal. I mean, we did talk about all that, and the rest of it was correct. Sorry.
Okay, so here, just to follow on with that point, there's the raised vegetable beds. Are they called garden? And the open space native plants, is that called a garden too? And
No, we're calling that the native plant garden
okay,
because we referred to it many times in the grant as that
native
when
plant
we
garden. Okay,
initially
and
did it.
all right,
And
good,
the
'cause we're
raised
getting-
beds, right? Yeah, separately.
Yeah, we're getting
Yeah, I
more.
think we can just call I think we call those the library garden beds for
Mhm.
short, but maybe it would be good to have specific names on everything. This
The
kind of
vegetables,
bringing
yeah.
that.
Let's think
Yeah.
about it. Jane, also the gardeners, ask them if they want to call it the library garden, if there's two other gardens there, and there may be more in the future at the rate we're going, so.
Well, we've actually had a couple of meetings about renaming it, and the decision was to leave it as is and just use our logo in it, which says Southborough Gardeners established 1974. So it's
Okay,
not going to have a special different name. So I
okay.
was just referring to it, you can call it the Southborough Gardeners Garden, but that's repetitive, which is why we didn't want it on the sign.
All right. Well, it's beautiful, and we're going to have more, I think, land space for the gardeners to think about as
Well,
time
there
goes on.
is another garden that's going to be established along the stone wall. I don't know if this is part of today's conversation, but it's a tribute garden to one of our members who had passed away, and her family is interested in financing it. And we've started plans with Curtis Landscaping to get it going this summer with a cobblestone path, a cobblestone edge. But it'll be right next to the library garden. It won't come over near the library.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a strip there.
The stone wall seems like a really good place to put plantings.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, we had put daffodils and other bulbs along there. It's just going to be sort of an expansion of that with
Nice.
some
Which family is it? Is it Trudy's family?
Trudy's family, yeah.
Yeah.
Trudy
Good.
Deffram. Mhm.
So why don't we do this? Why don't you just make the motion, Marguerite, to
Mhm.
accept the minutes as revised?
Yep. All right. So I move to accept the minutes as revised. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay. Landry, aye.
Davis, I.
Ekberg, aye.
Yes, Donnie, I.
Tinty, I.
Mandy, I.
All right. So we've Pass the minutes as amended, and Jane, thank you for that additional information. It's good to know. All right,
Hey, while we're talking about that, can I just ask a question?
sure.
Just because we've had so much furor about gardens, I would think that if you're expanding the garden, that should be brought up to us and approved.
It's not the garden that's being expanded, it's the bed along
So it's a bed that's already there.
yes.
Yeah, so this was, I
Do
don't
you know
want
what
to
I
belabor.
mean? It's like, I think if you
Yeah.
were to expand it, we should know
I,
that.
I don't want to, because we did bring up like I think a new thing when we're approving minutes, but why don't we do this? Jane, why don't we add just this as an agenda item for next month, if that's okay? And then you and I can just do like a quick presentation to the board, but just to make you feel a little bit more comfortable with this, Janet, this was already an area that's been established that the gardeners have planted. So basically there were sometimes there have been excess things from the urns or even from, I'm not going to call it the circle garden, from the library garden in that area. And then those items have been, it was almost, I would say, like a beta test for a little while because we didn't know how the stuff could be maintained, how it would work out with the landscapers as well. But you are correct in that we should kind of come forward with a more formal presentation since involving Trudy's family, I think kind of makes this into a new sphere, but it is a previously established area of the grounds that the
Okay.
gardeners have been maintaining. I can
We did do bulbs along the wall.
Yeah,
It's nice. It's just widening it a bit with
And putting more
define- and
different stuff, right?
defining it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
sure, certainly can do that.
Okay, good. So August, thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for the work on the gardens, Jane. They
Yes.
look beautiful. It's good. All right, so can we move Mr. Probst up to the next agenda item so that he can get out of
Yeah.
here
So
faster
this is
rather than
this is
slower?
this is the appointment of the Municipal Technology Committee
Yeah.
member. So there is a committee member who has been appointed by the library board in the past who's seeking reappointment. So I'm bringing him over now so that he can introduce himself and I think many of you know Mr. Probst, but for those of you who maybe don't, here he is.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Well, you want to be our reappointee to the Municipal Technology Committee. I have no problem with that. Does anyone have questions? I think, Mary, you're the only person who wasn't here when, I think, what was it, 2021 was the previous appointment? Yeah, so your 3-year term is up, and thank you for doing this.
Yes, thank you.
Does anyone have questions, comments, or whatever, or could we just vote and let Matt go? I would move to reappoint Matthew Probst as the library's representative on the Municipal Technology Committee. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, and
Well,
Landry,
just
aye?
Before you vote
See
though,
if Matt
Marguerite,
has any questions.
yeah, you asked if
Mary.
anybody had any
Oh,
questions.
Mary has
Can we move
questions,
right
sorry.
into it? So just,
No, it's
yeah,
You have
it's
to
okay.
jump in with me, sorry.
no, it's no worries. I'm not gonna get in the way of a vote. I'm gonna vote in the affirmative. Matt, just I've seen you at various town meetings, and I it's a pleasure to meet you here on Zoom for the library. I'm just wondering, ever so briefly, can you just explain how you and the library came together for this purpose?
Good.
Is that an easy
that's-
explanation? I'm sorry.
It's a great question. So the Municipal Technology Committee was formed a number of years ago. I think it was in 2018 or so. And it was formed, the way it was formed is that basically it has appointees from various different boards and committees, library board trustees, the school board and select board. I can't remember if there's others, but basically those main boards. And as part of our article of inception, it basically says we'll have appointees from these different boards. And when I put my name in the hat back in 2018 to join for the first time, somehow I don't know how I got assigned to the library, but I love it. I love the library. and love working with Director Donovan. He's a great ally. In fact, I'd say Director Donovan probably is more in terms of in comparison with the other representatives and so forth. We have better representation from the library and interests, and so I love the partnership we have with the library. With that being said, I think there's always opportunities to improve and always opportunities we can do to support the library more. And the purpose of the MTC is to try to find ways of unifying technology, better ways of leveraging technology across the town, the schools, the library, public safety, the townhouse, etc. And I think there's always more opportunities. So very interested in continuing our collaboration. Like I said, Director Donovan has been a great ally and partner in this effort. I think there's always more we can do though. So
Great. Well, it's nice to meet you, and thank you for taking this on.
likewise,
I
nice to meet
should-
you.
I should also mention, Mary, just because the rest of the board is aware of this, the library has a formal appointee that they have to reappoint that person every 3 years because there's a term expiration limit. But they also have the option to do an ex officio appointment. So I am the ex officio appointment. So I haven't in a while, and I did apologize to Matt just because my schedule hasn't lined up, but I do try to go to MTC meetings when I can and participate in those. So Matt and I have direct contact when I do that. And he's also helped on a number of projects, including helping to purchase the projection screen we have in the main floor stacks area. So Matt found one at a much more affordable price, I will say, several years ago. And I am still and will always be appreciative of that. So he's directly helped the library on a number of different things. Those are just a couple examples.
Yes, and as we know, technology is a work in progress everywhere all the time.
Yep.
So anyway, all right, I'm gonna start the vote again. To move to reappoint Matt Probst to the Municipal Technology Committee as the representative of the library. Landry, second, we had that from Amy.
Yep.
All right, Landry, aye.
Yes,
David,
Donnie, I.
Ekberg, aye.
Cindy, I.
Maney, I.
All right, I think that's unanimous. Matt, thank you again for stepping up to help us out on this.
Did Jane get to vote?
I did, I
Yes.
said aye.
Yeah, we
Time
can.
is
Okay. I
Overlap.
just want to, yeah, I hope it's okay, Jane. I just want to make sure we have it for the minutes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day. Stay cool.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. Bye.
All right, director's report, Ryan. What do we have?
Yeah, so there's stuff about the financials. I am happy to say this is the first year, I think, since that first COVID year where we turned back less than $10,000 in excess salary monies. So this kind of highlights, this is more in keeping with if there's this sort of normal vacations, absences from part-time staff. There were some bereavement leave, unfortunately, for some of our part-time staff where they were out for a while. So that is part of the reason why there is a salary turn back. I am very proud from the expense report of all the other line items, how they were kind of wrapped up, so that, you know, that's a little bit of work to try to spend down those line items, and I'm happy with what we did. And then we've started paying bills for the new year. So I really don't have any concerns, I would say, at this point. I don't know if anybody has any questions about the financials that you want to go over, since it's year end and year beginning.
And no, but I love turning back 64 cents and 12 cents. That's really good, Ryan.
Yeah. So
Well, we should all say that Ryan does a great job of managing to budget.
Yes.
Managing to budget.
Absolutely.
So hats off, Ryan.
I know. This looks so simple, but it's not at all. Anyway, how about the July 1st, Ryan? Anything we need to know?
no.
Okay. Good.
Ryan, I have a question.
Yeah.
The situation with Mariana, working in conjunction with the Westboro people. What kind
Yes.
of a time carve out do you envision that to be for her?
So that is a great question, David. That is a TBD. So we're kind of moving on from the expense report. This was a pretty recent development. We were approached, I think, on Thursday of last week. So I was actually in the progress of writing the director's report when this request came in. We have reached out to Lynn Sokol, who is the assistant director. She's the current acting director at the Westboro Library right now. So because Maureen has left to take her job at MBLC. So Lynn was on vacation last week, but did respond to us. And then we're hoping to set a meeting with either Mariana and myself and her outreach staff who do this, or if it's more of if it's just easier for me not to be there, Mariana will meet with her because I have faith in Mariana's ability. Mariana actively wants to do this. Kim
Good.
and I and her have had a discussion. Kim with the current summer reading activities, and then I'm kind of also anticipating writing the strategic planning update and getting ready for construction. So I'll assist Mariana, like if she's on vacation or if she needs somebody to go with her. But what we're trying to do is reach out to our part-time staff and see if somebody wants an opportunity. Because what I'd prefer is Mariana to go there with somebody, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And then we are really envisioning at this point trying this out as a weekly activity, once a week, and then kind of going from there, seeing if it's too much of a time commitment, if we have to scale back to twice a month. I don't envision that we're going to have the capacity to send anybody out for an outreach visit more than once a month. I'm sorry, once a week, rather.
Thank
And
you.
really, the fact that it's in the afternoon is very helpful because I would say we might get requests for this in the morning. We have the most overlap of all the full-time staff from the period of like 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. So this is kind of targeted, I would say, right before people go on dinner breaks because they're really looking at somebody for 3 to 5. But we did not. I'll just kind of go on my little quick.
Ryan, can I just interrupt you for 2
Yeah,
seconds?
yeah.
If somebody's watching, can you describe briefly what the outreach is?
Yes, so it's detailed a little bit more in the director's report, and I can
Right.
send the email from Eva Benda, who is
Or even just in a couple of sentences, because it's interesting and important, I think.
so at Extended Stay America in Westboro, there are a number of, it's part of a UN program. There is a number of, they use the term migrants a lot, but I think in Eva's email, she termed them as refugees. I think it depends on where they're coming from, but there's at least, I think it's like from Afghanistan, there were a number of different countries. I think most of the current ones there right now are from Afghanistan. So their families staying at the hotel, they do not have transportation. The Westboro Library has partnered with a group that's kind of helping them, that Eve is involved in, who's a Southborough resident, and they're starting to go there twice a week. So that is all their library has the capacity to do. Westboro is bigger than us. So Eva currently hosts a book club with us, the Reading Roundtable. So she had approached me to ask if there was anything the Southborough Library could do in addition, because really these there's like families there. The kids have nothing to do all day. So we talked about this in our last strategic plan, trying to do more outreach, and this is something that's come up. We were not able to aid in the brief amount of time that we had migrants who were at the Red Roof Inn before they were moved out. So we are very sympathetic to this issue, and I think this is a good opportunity for us to partner with Westboro on a more formal way, and then also to try to get library services out to people if we can.
Thank you.
Did I do a good job? I feel like I did.
It was fabulous.
We're still learning more about this. We know that there's about a dozen children under the age of 12 that are there right now, but this number fluctuates because people go in and out of the program. So we also I'm aware that there's people who have no English skills at all. So that was a factor. That's like things that we know. So it's Afghanistan, Africa, and Latin America. Those are the regions that are represented. I'm looking at Eva's email now. That's why I keep looking down.
Thank you. It sounds like a really good thing to do.
Yes, I did want to note that it is in Westboro, not in Southboro, so that we're aware of that, but we don't think that that's too far to travel. And then I'm trying to think of the other. I did bring up to Eva that when we were talking about doing sort of curbside pickups back during COVID several years ago, that the trustees did bring up some concerns about liability. So I didn't know if any of you had any concerns about this. I'm glad David kind of brought it up as the first thing, because I think this is like a big deal. We don't do this that often, but in the past, Kim and I and Mariana have all participated in Youth and Families Project Friend. So that was in Southborough, but that was off-site, and we did that once a week for several weeks. I also go to International Night at Algonquin, and we try to have, Kim goes to summer reading visits at the school too. So all of these are in Southborough. And again, this outreach visit would be more specifically in Westboro. I'm not really envisioning anything I'm concerned about, but I wanted to make sure that there was a space to address any concerns that you had. Mariana can put in, I'll say, for travel reimbursement if she would like. So I've already gone over that with her.
What's the liability, David, that concerns you?
No, he didn't say that he had liability concerns, Marguerite. I'm saying that he just
did?
brought up the issue of doing the outreach visits because it's listed in the director's report. I just want to make sure that there's a space to address any issues you guys might have. But I
Okay,
do
so-
think increasingly we might be asked to do more outreach, and if we can make it happen, I'd like to.
Okay.
I was just going to say, I think this is wonderful. And oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
And again, I'm just sort of going full circle here with some of the conversations we had about library volunteers with respect to the garden and library volunteers in general, and how we're going to move into making it standard that people are getting quarried and sorried. And I can imagine if this is a program that takes off, you could have any number of volunteers from our library too that might want to prepare with a librarian and partner with this. So, I mean, I think it's fabulous because I think the whole town is trying to find ways to help this community beyond simply providing the goods that might be advertised on Southborough Share and Care that the families need. So I think it's great.
This is at the library, the Westboro Library, right? No, it's not.
This is so Janet, that's a really good question and a really good point to make. This will be at the hotel. So the Westboro Library staff are going to the hotel to provide the services. And then we are also being asked to provide it at the hotel. So there is, I guess, like a conference room that's been converted to a community room. And that is where events will be taking place. So it's not like in a living space for the people who are at the hotel. And then the way that Eva and I kind of initially talked about this is that the families will have to register with the organizers ahead of time. So I don't know if they're going to transition a drop-in. All of this is kind of new. Like what I learned from Lynn in kind of communicating with her recently is that Westboro is also starting this as a new initiative as well with the hotel. So they are kind of learning as well. But the people who are, the migrants who are at the hotel, Janet, don't have the transportation to get to the library.
I get that. I understand that, and I understand why it would be there. I'm concerned about sending someone by themselves.
And Janet,
I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I like where your head is at. That is exactly my concern as well. So that is why I'm glad that we have a full-time staff member who's interested and who has the time to do this. But that is why I think it's crucial that we also have a part-time staff member accompany her. And I did, as silly as this sounds, I am concerned about any like violence or and I'm not saying that it's the migrants. I'm saying that we're sending somebody off site who's going to be like at a hotel, essentially, right? So it's a different type of environment. I want there to be like backup, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, for that individual. So
Yeah, I
we're
wouldn't
gonna
be necessarily worried about violence, but certainly about inappropriate behavior. People have different customs, different norms all over the world, and I think somebody needs to be there, whether it's somebody from the Westboro Library or we have someone else go. I think there should be some oversight or supervision.
Is there hotel or extended stay desk staff there all the time, Ryan?
That is a question I'd have to ask Eva, or my plan was to also go to the first visit,
Mhm.
so that I could just
Okay.
kind of get a sense of the space and the environment and what the setup is like there. So I might be able to answer more of these questions as we go. We're kind of planning for trying to go in August, if that makes sense. So I might have more data to kind of report back to you all next month, if that makes sense. But some of the things that Janet brought up were immediately the things that I thought of too. And Eva has been there a lot, I'll say. And I think the main thing is that these people have nothing to do during the day, that there's just no activities at all. And this sounds really silly, but one of the things that I brought up is she would like us to, I said, well, we can definitely have a staff member go and probably bring books and do like a story time. But Eva's like, well, I want the kids to be able to do a craft as well. And crafts cost money. Like, we need the infrastructure to have stuff available for that. So it's kind of like, well, who's funding this a little bit, right? So I did have to bring that up. Kim and I have talked about that pretty extensively. Kim usually has, at the end of story times, excess material that we could then it's already kind of prepackaged up, and then it would be easy to transport to the hotel. So that is kind of mitigated to a certain extent. It's also very easy for us to produce like coloring sheets and bring crayons and stuff like that. So we've kind of worked all that out too. One of the programs Eva was more interested in was the Kids Jam program on Friday, who we do work with a outside vendor. So we can't pay her currently to do an offsite program, but I did tell Eva we might explore grant funding or see if that would be something that the Friends would be supportive of at some point.
I think it's a good outreach, but I do have
Oh.
questions about, if somebody breaks an ankle. Do you think it's worth running it by Jay Tellerman?
I think other libraries do outreach, Marguerite, and I don't
Without
think that
doing
they
that.
reached out
Okay.
to their town
Yeah.
council. I can have a conversation with Mark and Vanessa about the
Just so they know. Right.
about what the
The
insurance
location that's the issue more
Yeah.
than, yeah.
I would say if they're on town
say.
time and
Yeah.
we know that they're going there, I think they're covered under our insurance. I'm sorry, Jane, I cut you off though. I didn't mean
No,
to.
Mary was trying to say something.
No, and I don't mean to take us on a tangent, but Ryan, since you mentioned the music jam or that's under your library umbrella, I just wanted to point out, in case it's helpful for you to relay, I know there are a bunch of local Music Together people that are part of Apple Country Music Together, and I don't know that they do anything at your library proper, but I do know that when I was going to those with Maisie, one of the locations they had that you could choose to go to was a retirement community in Shrewsbury. And so that's the one that she and I attended. So I just say this to you to pass on to Eva, that maybe there's a collaboration there that would involve music and activity that would take that off your plate too. And they might have either the capacity to volunteer for that or some of the resources to throw at that.
Yeah, Eva has explained to me that they have no funding at all for any of this. That's part of the reason why they're reaching out to us.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason why, when I started the discussion about how, paper and craft materials cost money, she was a little, I think she was a little jarred by that, but like at the same time, it's not,
Yeah.
we have to find a way to pay for things. And then
Yeah.
it would be the same if there was so the other thing is we could talk, I haven't had a conversation with our vendor. The vendor who comes in and does the program to us doesn't cost a lot she doesn't charge a lot, is what I can share with you all. So I don't know if she would be open to doing it pro bono. It's going to be up to her. I don't want to kind of put her in that spot. But I know that they're looking for, she specifically wanted music programs, and that's really the only ongoing music program we currently do. That was the feedback I gave.
What's
So
the cost of, what does she charge?
I'd have to check with Kim, Marguerite. I actually don't know off the top of my head. I think it's like it's under $50 a visit.
Well, certainly, I think that that's something that
for the
I
friends.
wouldn't mind just donating to have happen, just to help out. I mean,
I honestly think the friends would be pretty supportive of it as
Okay.
well, but I think
Yeah.
part of it is a conversation with the vendor about what is her capacity to go
Mhm.
there to provide this, and then also, you know, she can be responsive because the kids understand her on the Fridays, and then these are going to be kids who maybe don't understand her language. So that's, you know, that's something I'd want to all kind of address with her before she makes a commitment, if that makes sense.
Well, and I'd be concerned about her going alone as well.
Agreed, Janet. I have the same concern. So that's another thing I think we'd have to consider. And then we'd have to look at, do we have a staff member who would volunteer or who would assist potentially?
So this sounds good, Ryan, and I'm really glad that it's happening. There's some questions, but I think, to me anyway, there's got to be ways to do it so that everyone feels that everybody's safe and in a good place. So good work, and thank you, Mariana, for stepping forward, and thank you to the friends for helping out. All right, other questions about the director's report or anything you want to share with us, Ryan, aside from the erratic temperatures in the library?
Well, I'm sorry in the director's report to volunteer Jane for this too, but when Jane has some time, I was hoping that her and I could maybe schedule a meeting with Mr. Cundiff or with Mr. Leroy, whoever's available. And I hope that the rest of you can have a discussion about this, but in the past, Jane has been very helpful at doing walkthroughs with Chris and I, and then kind of talking about both initiative that the gardeners have, but also just I think there was a lot of activity that meeting that we had the June 3rd walkthrough, right?
Right.
Where we were just kind of pointing things out. We weren't really having sort of like takeaways of what needed to get done. And I know one of the things we talked specifically about was the removal of some of the invasive vines that were in the property that Jane was very smart about pointing out. And then I haven't followed up with Chris or with Bill on it. So I just, if it's okay with you, I'd like Jane and I to set a meeting and then kind of go over what we'd like done.
It's good. There's some dead trees back there too. That I think I remember Chris saying that they were really busy now and they might not do the whole thing at once. They might do it a bit at a time if they had spare time. But anyway, to get that cleaned up would be great. So if you're okay with that, Jane, I think that's
Yes,
what.
I'm fine with that. We can talk later about
Okay.
setting a
Good.
meeting. Okay. I mean,
And that cherry bush tree / whatever it is, it really needs to be removed. It is such a sad piece of vegetation. There needs to be room for something else. All right, Ryan, anything else on the director's report?
Well, Mary has a
Mary,
hand.
you got your hand up again.
Sorry, I just had a quick question. You all probably know what this is, but down under grants and miscellaneous, I was just wondering what the Library Speakers Consortium was. And is that something you always apply to? Is that bringing in speakers to the library? I just wondered if that could get explained a little bit because I think it sounds really cool and I'd like to know more.
Yes, so Carol has come up with actually a 3-page proposal, which is very detailed, which I think it's worth sending all of you. I'm very proud of Carol's work on this, to be honest. So we were trying to address feedback we received from previous Friends meetings on trying to have or research more author visits at the library. So in this was a goal Carol had, was to try to look at, because Carol doesn't, I don't want to speak for Carol, but I also think Carol is more engaged on doing research about how other libraries do programs than trying to undertake doing programming herself, which I think is fair because we don't often have somebody who like investigates whether other libraries are doing. So she found this library speakers consortium service, I guess like vendor, pretty early. And then we discovered that Hopkinton was actively using it. So you pay a annual subscription fee, and then you get access to 3 author talks virtually every month. The speakers vary. They're mostly adult speakers, but they do on occasion have young adult authors and children's authors as well, which honestly made the whole idea more appealing to us. The annual cost is $2,500, which is a little, I will say, for programming or for new initiative, it's a little rich for our blood. But if you actually divide it out into how much a virtual program would cost the library, and we're getting 3 of these a month for 12 months, it's $90 per visit. That's less than what we pay for other virtual programs now. We also got statistics from Hopkinton. There are varied levels of success depending on the author and depending, we discovered, on the time of year. These are much more popular in the late fall and winter months than in the summer months, as you can imagine. But we were already having ideas on how to pair some of the book club, so we could have book clubs like talk about a book we know is coming and then actually have a live author event where a kid's book group or even an adult book group could engage with the author directly or hear from the author about their process of writing the book. So we did discuss this at the last Friends meetings, at the Friends meeting that they had last week, and I was surprised. I'll say surprised at how supportive they were of this idea. They really liked the idea of it, and they had a lot of ideas about applications. Beth Mello was wondering if there was an additional cost for live streaming the author event as it was occurring, and we have since investigated that issue and found out that there is not. That is covered under the flat fee, so we wouldn't be hit with an additional charge. So it is something we'd like to try. We did identify, because the Southborough Community Fund grants need to be between $1,000 and $10,000. So this sort of perfectly fits within that financial sphere. And this would also be a new initiative. This would be a year where we could try out the service and see if it's something that we like. And then if we do want to go forward with future years, we would then either have to talk to the Friends or we'd have to look at budgetary support. So just as a reference, this is almost half of the library's programming budget. So this would be a significant expense for us. So the Friends have also already said, well, we would also be willing to cover like any excess costs, like additional costs if the library couldn't cover it. And that was a conversation. So already, I think there's some momentum from having the Friends discuss this. I wanted to make you all aware of that, and then also talk about that this is something we're looking into. I don't want to say I was initially hesitant about doing additional virtual programming, only because I think after COVID, Kim and I really tried to transition to as much in-person programming as we could. But in reviewing end-of-year data, which I'm doing now, I can tell you that the wellness Jill Vroman programs and the cooking programs with Ploy have had pretty consistent numbers for virtual attendance, whereas some of our in-person programs tend to be a lot more hit or miss. And to be honest, the adult programs have been more miss. There have not been a wide variety of people attending the programs. Kids programs were doing pretty good. We're actually doing pretty good with teen programs too. It's more the adult programs that I would say the numbers are not where I'd like them to be. So I'm willing to try something outside of the box to see if this would appeal to the community. People are coming to the cooking and wellness programs. I have a feeling like they might come to author programs as well.
Could I just make a comment? I don't know if it was part of this consortium, but I attended an author presentation at the Hopkinton Library, and it wasn't the actual author, it was a woman dressing up as the main character, who was Isabella Stewart Gardner. But the way I heard about this was a friend of mine in a book group in Hopkinton, and her whole book group was going. And so I signed up. It was free, and they had a waiting list, and it was hugely popular. So I think the key to it is find out what the book groups are reading, and then possibly, you know, find something that would appeal to the whole group. Or and I know there's a book group that that meets at the library, but I mean, I'm in two others which don't meet at the library. So just finding I just, it's a comment, that's all. And it was, they were turning people away. It was huge. But I have another question, if I could ask, about the garden photography program on Tuesday night. What is that?
So Joanne Pearson, who
Oh.
has done programs before, she's going to be at the library tomorrow night. The Friends are funding her program, and then this is really more about her process for photography versus a presentation of the actual garden photographs themselves. There's a little
Oh.
bit of that, Jane.
That's
but
okay.
this is
Actually, I do know who she is. No.
okay.
All right.
Yeah, so that's a good
Move on.
segue. I'm encouraging people to attend, including anybody on the board, if you guys want to have a fun Tuesday night. I know Marguerite cannot attend because I know she's going to be at a select board meeting because I have to go there right before I come back to the library for the presentation. So, but if you guys are available and you want to come, you're all invited. And then we are inviting the Friends as well who funded the program. And I think many of them were interested in attending too. And feel free to, I can send you the flyer, Jane, if
No,
you'd like.
I didn't know that it was Joanne, so no, I understand
Okay.
now. Thank you.
Okay. Is that it for the director's report? I think we're still in the director's report, right?
Yes, other questions and comments about the director's report. So with the, all right, so we'll try the consortium for a year and see how it works out. Is
Well,
that
we're gonna apply to the community fund, who's been
Right.
very gracious to us in the past. So we'll see if that's something that they want to support. And then if they don't support it, the Friends are willing to have a conversation if I go
Okay,
back
it
to them.
sounds great, actually, yeah, so,
Honestly, looking more into it, I have to agree. I think it's definitely something we want to try to pursue. So that's the plan in the next couple months.
good, all right. Any other comments? All right, any other questions about the director's report? Okay, seeing none, let us move on to the next agenda item, which is the dreaded temperature in the library.
There, other than the fact that it's now up to 66.5 in her office, that's the only update I have for you. So Kim is still giving feedback and we are giving
It's
feedback to
cold,
facilities that
yeah,
it's cold.
yeah.
So just letting you guys know where we're at.
Okay. 5-year strategic plan.
I've reached out to MLS on trying to get a facilitator to come to the library to do one of the meetings. I may host a second meeting. We'll see the feedback we receive, I think, after the first one, but we're planning the feedback evenings for August. So I will probably have dates soon and we'll have flyers soon. But Mary's suggestion on doing the strategic planning forums and maybe not doing another survey, we are going to integrate the building survey data. And thinking more and more about this, I just don't think it made sense to have two surveys as an addendum to the plan. It was going to be too confusing. So having the strategic planning forums, I think, will give us enough additional data to put into the plan for the update. And then I'm just going to go forward with it.
But we're in kind of a weird place with this, aren't we? Because we don't know what's happening with the state funding for building.
That's true, but I think the plan is to try to expand the library right now. And if we don't get the funding, I think the plan in the next 5 years is to reapply. So I think that'll be the building survey is directly relevant
Mhm.
to what the plan is for the next 5 years. And then what I'm hoping that the forums will do is basically catch all of the extra data. So if people want, like, let's say we get feedback that people want more virtual programs, right? That's something we're going to try. That would be helpful because we are looking at those avenues right now. And then, I'll let you guys know and the friends know, but we're hoping that we also get members of the public who are in. We did have a large degree of engagement from the public on the garden. So maybe this would be great to try to source potential volunteers, people who are interested in garden programming or garden initiatives, try to get those people excited. But mainly I'm trying to, I like these forums because they make me think about all the things I'm not thinking about, if that makes sense. That's kind of the aim of trying to do one of these forums. So we are trying to also get maybe what I would identify as non-regular library users. So if you have, once we announce the dates, if you guys have neighbors or you have friends who live in town or who maybe don't use the library, but you think would be good library users, or have them come to these nights and tell us what would make them start to come in. That is really what we're looking for.
I think also I'm noticing a lot of people move into town and nobody talks to them about the library, so they're not really converts yet. So I agree, it's good. There would be new people coming in that need to be reached. I'm just thinking of our last 5-year strategic plan did not have the word COVID in it, but that was a lot of what went on.
So there is an effort from the MBLC to have some sort of emergency response type of setup in there. So I think maybe having an emergency response plan should be a pretty good goal in the next 5 years. We've had a pretty significant turnover with our leadership in public safety in the town. So this would be a good opportunity for me to talk with our new fire chief, with our new police chief about exactly what an emergency response would be. Because, we don't want to think about having to respond to an emergency, but we may have to. And I think having some sort of plan for if there is a pandemic or something worse, we have tools in place that we can refer back to. So I think that's also a good goal to establish for the next 5 years.
Those are two departments that are very good to work with. So yes, I think so. Other comments on the Ryan's plans for moving forward with forums, not surveys, for the strategic plan? No, that was a good suggestion, Mary. I think needed to do that. Okay, so IMLS, National Medal Nomination. Can you fill us in on what IMLS is?
So this is, some of you are familiar with this. I believe Mary and David both previously wrote letters. Maybe Amy did too. If Amy didn't, she wanted to. I remember that. So this is the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which is a national organization. They do an award every year. We got contacted by Congressman Jim McGovern. Basically, if you fill out a form, he will nominate the institution. You then have to do all the work to complete the nomination form. So some of that is public letters of support. So I did ask, I mentioned this to the friends at the meeting last week. I would say the president was a little bit more confused by that request, since we're looking at basically changing the layout of the library. But what I said is that might be an easier sell if we're an award-winning library, which I think we are. That's just my personal feedback. So we do a lot for the community. I think we've done a lot, in particular with the garden spaces. That's a good thing to go back to. And with establishing the story walk, we've made the library almost like a 24/7 space for the community as much as we could. So that is one of the things that you could highlight in the letter. You could talk about some of the great programming we do. I feel like we are a dynamic institution that's always kind of looking to the future, and we're trying to expand specifically because our library is so utilized right now by Southborough. So I'd like to proceed with a nomination. Before, I think I went through this process and I didn't inform the board ahead of time. I'd just like, I guess, your blessing, if it's okay if we try for this again. I will say 10 libraries and museums nationally are selected for this honor. And there were 3 finalists for Massachusetts last year, and one of them won. One of them was one of the top 10. So we're also in competition with museums. And this is very competitive, is what I can tell you, based on what happened last year.
Which
But
was the library from Massachusetts that won last year? Do you remember?
I'm going to have to look it up, Marguerite.
Was
It's
it
stressing me
the
out.
library or was it the Discovery Museum?
The Discovery Museum won, but there was a library as well.
Okay.
Get everybody's competitive blood up. Do you need us to write letters, Ryan?
If you want to.
Would it help? Wouldn't hurt.
I don't want to commit you guys to having to do them, but I also am not going to say no.
Voluntary, yeah.
Could you send out what the criteria is? so
Yeah,
that
I'll send you
we can
all
correct
of the stuff.
letters?
Yeah, there was an email about this from MBLC, but also from Congressman McGovern. So I'll send you both of those communications.
Great,
And you're
thank
going to get a lot of emails today because you're also going to get the speaker consortium proposal because I want you guys to read that. But it was the Griswold Memorial Library from Coleraine in Massachusetts, for the record.
Where was it
Where?
from?
From Griswold, Massachusetts. It's called the Coleraine Memorial Library.
Griswold?
Griswold? I know, I'm in this. I thought I knew every town in this state.
Must be out west.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and just to piggyback on what Mary brought up, Discovery Museum, which is more local to us, and we have a pass for, did also receive the honor last year as well. So
There's a
Yeah.
Griswold, Connecticut. I don't see a Griswold, Mass.
no, it's in, I'm sorry, Griswold Memorial Library in
In Coleraine,
Coleraine,
yeah.
Massachusetts. I apologize, Janet. I inverted them.
Coleraine?
Coleraine, Colrain.
It's out in the Berkshires.
Yeah. Think.
Coleraine, Mass. Yes.
Yes, it looks very idyllic.
Oh, there's a Griswoldville in Coleraine.
I think it was probably the library was named after a
The
donor
Griswolds,
or
right.
somebody who worked there, because it's the Griswold Memorial Library. It just has
Sounds
it's not called the
very
It's up
Coleraine.
near the New Hampshire border, just west of 91.
Oh, wow. Well, it must be a well-kept secret, that town. Okay.
I know Worcester.
Way north of Northampton.
Yeah, so the Worcester Library, which is actually a system because there's 4 locations, they were also a finalist for the record too. They were they were the most local to us that
Well,
got.
even being a finalist would be great.
I'd be happy just to be nominated.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So, but yeah, I'm shooting for finalist, and then we'll see if we can win. But
I think that's great. Let's do it. So if you need letters, I'll be glad to write one. No one should feel coerced, but if you
okay.
if
Well,
the
let me
spirit moves you,
send
do
out
it.
the information to all of you, and then you can decide if you would like to follow up with me. But
All right. What's the deadline for the submission or the entry or whatever? Roughly.
just give me a minute, Margaret, because I
Okay.
have to look it up.
And then before we move on to the next agenda item, I just had a question for my fellow board members about some of the emails that I am now receiving as a new trustee member from Alyssa Hayden and some of the offerings that are available there. If I could just ask a quick question about that when it's appropriate.
I might be better equipped to answer that for you.
Oh,
Natalie.
okay.
Sorry.
No,
But
it's okay.
So I will just say I did update our directory recently, and I did add your information as a trustee to the MBLC website. So all of you are on that directory, and you do periodically receive information now from MBLC about upcoming trainings.
So is now an appropriate time to ask my question, or
Yeah,
would you like me to wait? Okay.
no,
So I was
go.
just wondering, of anybody can answer this. Ryan, if it's you, that's great. Of my fellow trustees, I wondered, are people members of the American Library Association? As trustees, have you joined? And if so, or if not, I'm wondering, this one particular email that came through about the opportunity to take advantage of the United for Libraries statewide membership. And so I was looking for, this all looked very interesting to me. I haven't done a deep dive yet. I'm going to, especially because it looks like coming up at the end of July, there's some interesting trustee panels that we might be able to take advantage of for free individually. And so I wondered if this was a good thing, what people's thoughts were on this.
Yeah, I think I remember all of them, and I enjoy going to the online stuff.
Okay.
Gives good perspective that you might not have.
Right.
Amy
Okay.
and I have attended, I'd say several. I'll go with several of the United Libraries webinars.
Yeah.
And that was where we provided feedback about the meeting room issue in particular. But they
Mhm.
did do what I think was very interesting and very practical, like a series where they talked with a attorney. And they kind of had,
Yeah.
I think it was called Legal Issues for Libraries. You also do, if you sign up for the webinars, typically get access to if they have any recordings. So like, let's say your plans change and you can't attend it, you
Yeah.
can go back and watch those recordings.
Cool.
There, I should also mention the individual you got the emails from, who I haven't had the chance to meet yet. She replaced Moradidi, who was the trustee and friends liaison at the MBLC. I'm pretty sure that's that individual's new job.
Mhm.
She will probably be sending out information in the fall about trustee orientation sessions. So I think, Mary, you actually probably have gotten your orientation in the past couple months, but these are good networking opportunities to meet other new trustees. If they do one that's local in the area, it's nice because they're typically in-person meetings in the evening. You get to, I always like it because you get to go see another library. I'll selfishly say that, and
No.
typically meet the director there as well as their board members. And then you can ask questions to the MBLC just generally about anything. So I am happy to just send the information. In the past, some trustees have wanted to make a night of it, and I've gone with them. And this one, I would say I'd be interested in meeting the new MBLC staff member because I haven't gotten the chance to meet her. But also, I don't want to crash. If you guys want to ask questions and have the library director not be there, I'll throw that out there.
We always love the library director being here.
But you can also email her and she'll get back to you, or at least try to find the answer for you as quickly as possible. So that's just an added resource. But that is why the reason you're getting those emails, Mary, is my fault. So
No, I'm thrilled to get the emails. No, I know, I figured I was in the pipeline now. It was great. I just wanted to make sure that I think it sounds fascinating. So if I'm gonna sign up, there you go.
And you'll know more than the rest of us, which would be good. We can ask you.
Sure.
There's a lot to know anyway. All right, so letters possibly, we're not sure when, but Ryan will let us know.
Oh, I did look it up. I have to submit the application form by August 1st.
August 1st. Okay, good.
And then the letters are not, I don't need the letters until later, I think.
Okay.
I'm looking. I think the nominations actually get submitted by September 6th.
Okay.
So we have plenty of time. That's why I'm letting you guys know now. And then again, don't feel obligated to do letters, but if we also will try to find people not directly affiliated as part of like organizationally as part of the library who would also submit letters. So like community members, I was thinking, Amy, of asking Karen, just because we've worked with her on the blood
she'd be great.
drive. So, you know, she's not sort of formally part of the library, but she's somebody we've been working with now for several. So this Karen
For sure.
Ingram, who I work with to organize the mobile blood drives.
Right, which
So,
is great. Good. All right, and our last agenda item is public comment, and I'm gonna see if there's any, nope, no attendees. We're good. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All right, Landry, aye.
Oh,
What?
sorry. I just have a quick question. Are there are there anything? Is there anything we need to be considering attending for the library or anything before the next board meeting? Like any town meetings or anything I should have on my radar, or is this ringing any bells?
no,
No.
so we
Okay.
were, if I could just take a space, I know you were just about to adjourn,
I'm
Marguerite.
so sorry.
No,
If
no,
I
no,
could-
that's a good question.
I think I need like maybe 2 minutes to do a couple quick announcements, if that's okay.
Sure, all right.
One of the things was we discussed in the last board meeting, having board members come to the MBLC site visit on the 23rd.
Yep,
I have since followed up with MBLC about this. They're going to be touring 30 libraries, I think, in the process of 2 to 3 days. And there's a very limited time frame with a very set schedule for what they need to do. So at this point, they just want the library director and
Yeah.
somebody representative of the town, particularly the facilities manager,
Yeah.
to be at this meeting.
so
Because
that's
it's gonna-
John.
It's
right?
going to be John. John has he's confirmed that he can come do this, but they said that there will be additional opportunities and much more time to engage with board members at later dates.
But
So
that's
I
Andrea.
misspoke.
Andrea's the person
It-
who's doing that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's either going to be Andrea or Heather or both
Okay.
of them. Heather lives a lot closer to us, so it may be Heather Bachman who is the rep, but I
Okay,
don't,
good.
for Marguerite, I don't think they know. I think they're still trying to set the schedule, and that's the other reason. She said this is not going to be there's really not going to be an opportunity
It's
to
not gonna be a schmooze, okay.
answer, yeah, and it's not
Okay, good.
really like a Q&A, like I kind of thought it would be. They
Mhm.
said they're gonna come, it's gonna be like within a 45-minute to an hour visit,
Good, good.
preferably more in the 45-minute. They
Let's
really
hope
just
the air
wanna-
conditioning is acting up that
Yeah.
day.
It's like going through the building briefly and then going to the secondary site, which I think they're budgeting time for that. But again, I should not have invited the whole board. I'm sorry that I did. I didn't really realize what type of visit this was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about it, and we're
Okay.
fine. We'll be fine. And you
There-
can report back on what they thought of our air conditioning. And
Yeah,
the
I
rest of it.
will.
Okay, good. Thank you for the
And
heads
to be
up.
more precise, I had a note in my calendar about the evening of August 6th, Tuesday, August 6th.
Yeah,
Possibly, is that something I should have on my calendar, or we're
okay.
good?
So good eye, Mary, and thank you for bringing that up. There were some emails I received from a member of the select board asking about the library project.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
Al
need,
Hamilton.
yeah, I need to follow up on that to see if they would like us to provide an update. There was some, I would say concern that it would make more sense for us to go in the fall. I think after we find out if we're in the grant program or not, to provide an update. But I will say, I think the member of the board who was asking is arguably the member who's least familiar with all of this. He was not an elected member of the board at the time when we applied, and he is also not on the library board as well, which is the other new member of the
So you're
board.
doing it. So I can just speak briefly to that as Al Hamilton is putting together a list of what the large capital projects for the town will be for the next 5 or 10 years, schools, library build, whatever. So he just wanted to talk to Ryan or have Ryan explain to him basically how much it would cost to do a renovation and expansion approximately. So that was kind of what that was. And Ryan had volunteered to come and talk to the select board meeting on the 6th.
Marguerite, isn't this duplicating what capital planning is doing?
Yes.
So Janet, I actually gave that feedback as well, because my understanding was that this is what the capital what is it now?
Absolutely.
Capital
CI.
Planning and Improvement Committee, right?
Yeah.
So
You
my
should just get in
understanding
touch
was
with Jason. Yeah.
they come up with the plan
Yep.
and then they present it. And what I can assure the board and anybody who's watching is that the information about the projected cost of the library was not only in there, but it actually is pretty approximately what our projected town cost would be. So that I have confirmed that with the finance director and with the town administrator. So it is reflected in the capital plan. But I would say if Mr. Hamilton wants me to come and just kind of provide a brief update at some point in the future about what this program is, about a lot more of the details we have now versus what we had 2 years ago when we went for the letter of intent. I think all of that makes sense, is kind of what I gave, but I don't believe we're planning to go August 6th at this point, Mary. It looks like that might be a future meeting. There was
It
discussion
might
about
be
going.
better to just refer him to the information already provided to capital planning, because if it diverges at all, it's gonna end up being a
And
problem.
it will.
Good point, Mary, or good point, Janet.
Yeah. I suspect the motives.
Well, but my thought also is the more talk in public meetings there is about what the library wants to do, the
That's
better.
true too. Yeah.
Everyone in this town should know what we want to do months before the town meeting that asks for money.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
Maybe not a super amount of detail, just, yeah.
yes, because
Well,
we don't have it really.
We also have, it's very preliminary for what the projected costs are going to
Right.
be at this point, Mary, based on the feedback we gave the grant. But I also think it's worth having a conversation at some point with the Capital Planning and Improvement Committee. It's worth giving them an update on this and then updating, like making sure that like I think the discussion that you and Marguerite just had about there being like a different message. What I want is it to be consistent with all groups so that
Yes.
everybody is updated, everybody knows what the plan is. I think that is kind of important. And I think everybody was very concerned that we were going to be coming either to the fall town meeting this year or to the spring 2025 meeting
Right.
with a proposal. And really what the plan is to do a lot of this work if we get into the grant program, which we find out early October, and then to go to the spring 2026 meeting. That would be the time frame. So I think that has also mitigated a lot of concerns. I think people were worried that we were going to be coming forward with a proposal very quickly, but we have a lot more time to plan this out, which I think is the whole idea behind doing capital planning, right? Is to make sure that you have all of the information you need before you go for your financial ask. So that is what I'm in the process of working with those groups to do. But the elevated time frame, I think, was that also confused me. But I think it was because there's a member of the board who just isn't familiar with all of this, and so that makes sense. You
I
know,
would just suggest that any communications, I would copy in Jason Malinowski, who's the chair of capital planning.
and I'm happy to do that, Janet. I think that's appropriate, given that it's a capital project.
Right.
And the good part of this is the more conversations about the library in
Yeah.
meetings, the better.
Mhm.
Okay, my last announcement is a fun thing, which is the Friends are going to be hosting a small celebration at Yeoman's Ice Cream in Westboro after the library closes on August 5th. So that's a Monday. So we're looking at getting there around 5:15. The celebration, it's an ice cream social, but the celebration is going to be in honor of Kim Ivers, who has officially worked at the library for 30 years.
Wow.
So we're doing Kim and I have talked about doing like a summer ice cream thing at Yeoman's for a few years now. So that was kind of, I talked to the Friends about this. It was a little awkward because Kim was in the meeting. The Friends are going to buy the staff ice cream or have, I don't exactly know where we landed on it. I have to double check. I know Kim isn't paying for ice cream. The rest of the staff, I think they agreed that they're going to pay for the staff. They will not pay for you guys. Sorry, but you are welcome to come and hang out and
Awesome.
get your own ice cream and congratulate Kim if you want. We've also gotten feedback from some of our staff that they don't like ice cream and that they won't be attending. And that's also, I know, Mary, I had the same reaction. So some people have already wished Kim happy 30 years already. But I wanted to throw that out there because, you know, there's not a lot of times where we can socially get together. This is going to be very informal. I think people are going to kind of get the ice cream and then go home. But I just wanted to mention this since it will be before the next trustees meeting.
Okay, so what's the date and time again? Sorry.
It's August 5th,
Okay.
it's about 3 weeks
Monday.
from today. And
Yeah.
it's when the library closes at 5:15. That's when we're going to head over there. I'm sorry, we close at 5. The plan is to get to
Get
Yeoman's
there at
5:15, yeah.
And you
Sounds
said the
fun.
5th or the 6th?
It's the 5th. It's a Monday.
The
Monday.
Monday, okay.
Because
Ice
Tuesday.
cream
we're
for
open.
dinner.
Yay.
It can be ice cream for dinner. And you can, somebody asked me this, but you are welcome to bring friends, spouses, children, all of that is fine. So just everybody's welcome. Because that I talked to Kim about this and I think Kim would like as many good vibes and good people there as possible. And you know,
Is she
yeah.
getting a present from everybody?
No, that was not discussed. The ice cream is the present, Marguerite. So
Do we want to discuss it? It seems like ice cream is good, but maybe something else. 30 years is an amazing.
why don't you and I, because we don't have this on the agenda, why don't you and I discuss it offline, if that's okay? And we can try to see if there's something we can do.
All right. Sounds
Okay.
good.
I remember when she started.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
It was in 1994 was when her employment started,
Yeah.
because that's based on the longevity. So it's 2024
And
now.
2 little ones going to the library story hour every week.
Oh,
But I don't want this. The staff did a small presentation when somebody hosted us at their house, which was very nice on her actual anniversary. But I don't want this to go by without us making a big deal of it,
Yeah.
because 30 years should be celebrated.
Huge deal. Yeah.
yeah.
What was her
absolutely.
start date? What was her start date? Do you know?
July 1st, 1994. But Kim will
Wow.
tell you, if you talk to her at this ice cream thing, that she was volunteering as a child and continued volunteering
yeah.
as much as she could
There it
before
is.
she got
Yeah.
hired. So
She
it's
wants
been
full
more-
credit for all those
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, she'll say it's been more than 30 years, but her actual dates of employment, it starts July 1st, 1990.
Oh, I love that. That's fabulous. Well, good.
Okay,
All
that was my last item. The next trustees meeting that
Oh,
I'm
yes.
planning on with you guys will be Monday, August 19th.
It worked for everybody.
11.
At 11? Okay.
Yeah. Is that okay? Do we want to move it up to the 12th if there's a conflict?
You mean back to the 12th or
Back
closer?
to the 12th.
I
The
can't do
19th
the
the
works.
19th, but the 19th would be the third week. So that's
Yeah,
really
I can't do the 12th, so.
okay. I didn't know if anybody was traveling in August because I know it's hard.
I'll be back by then.
I'll be here.
And
Alright,
I think it's before back to school, after back to school. I'm not sure on that.
For back to school.
It's
Okay.
before,
It's before.
isn't it, Mary? The kids don't go back yet, so.
Yeah, they're fine.
Is-
They don't
is
go
that
back
okay?
till the 29th.
Good. Okay, so we're good on the 9th, 19th.
19th, August
At 11.
19th. That I'll
Alright.
post the meeting, yeah.
Good, that'll give us time. All right, any others? Comments? No. All right, I will do it again. A motion to adjourn.
I motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Landry, aye.
Davis,
Yes.
aye.
Yes,
Expert
Donnie,
guy.
I.
Tinty eye.
Sorry, we're all chiming in. I guess
Maybe
we all
I-
want to go
So
get
anxious to
lunch.
get that
Right,
in.
I know.
No, it's
All
my fault because I kept us for another 15 minutes. But listen,
No,
all of
I-
those announcements were important. So
They were.
Can I say I really love this board? I think it is a really good group. It is mellow and we all pull together. It's lovely. So
I second that.
Oh, and I will just, I know you adjourned,
I
but
vote aye.
wait a minute. Oh, wait, Ryan knows we adjourned, but
the only
What?
thing I'll say is that I know it wasn't on the agenda this time. I've been really diligently working on the employee evaluations, and we're gonna complete everything this week. Fingers crossed. But I did not get a chance to even look into doing the volunteer policy. So I will add that as a standing agenda item for you guys to review stuff I'm working on for August. And then if it may take us a while to complete, but I just wanted to let you know, we also did revise guidelines for teen volunteers. And we've said if they're over 18, they have to get Corey and Sori checked. That's on the
Thank you.
website now.
Yeah.
So we've already started to integrate some of the board's decision there, but I haven't had a chance to even review policies yet. It just has been really busy.
Well,
So-
this is
What's a
discussion of an
story
agenda
check?
item.
It's
What
a
was it, Janet?
so Corey is criminal offender, Sori is sexual
Sexual offender.
It's a separate directory.
Good, our due diligence. So good agenda item. All right. Anything else? No, we're good. Goodbye, everyone. Stay cool.
Have a good July.
Bye.
Hey, Amy, can you stay on for a quick second?
Sure.
Okay,
Well, you're recorded and on YouTube.
Yeah.
David. Do
Why don't
wanna
you
give
just
her a
text me?
call? Yeah, why
Or
don't
call
you,
me, yeah.
just because it's being recorded on the town stuff.
okay.
I think I should
All right.
end it. Is it okay if you guys talk? If that's okay? All right.
Yep, all right, bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.